Welcome everyone to this special explainer. Today, we're setting out on a pretty incredible transformation. Whether you're trying to figure out how to solve math problems across your entire curriculum, literally from chapter 1 all the way through chapter 9, or you're tackling those tricky special topics like finding the maximum and minimum values of expressions, you are in the right place. We're going to take you from a manual, step-by-step problem solver and turn you into a strategic, time-saving hacker. Okay, let's just dive right in. We're splitting our journey into two parts. First up is the scholar, where we build a rock-solid foundation of data logic. And then comes the sword, where we unleash the raw computational power of your modern calculator. But first, here is the golden question for anyone who's ever faced a brutal, time-crunched exam. Do you actually know how to hack your time? I mean, in a multiple-choice math test, the clock is absolutely your biggest enemy. Every single second you spend manually factoring polynomials or grinding out antiderivatives is a second stolen from tougher questions. But what if you could bypass the manual labor entirely? Well, that's exactly what we're going to master today.
So, Section 1, Data Foundations. This is the scholar phase of our journey, because before we start hacking equations, we absolutely must understand the fundamental logic of how information is gathered.
You see, data doesn't just magically appear out of thin air, right? It has to be collected. We have direct collection, which is gathering data firsthand. Think about literally walking around your classroom and personally asking your friends what they got on their midterm math grades. Then we have indirect collection. This is when you extract information from existing sources, kind of like looking up a 7-day weather forecast on your phone. The absolutely crucial point here is that regardless of your method, your data has to accurately represent the whole group you're studying.
And that brings us perfectly to Section 2, Classifying Data. Once we've collected our data, we need to know exactly how to categorize it. So here we have the clear divide between the two major data types. On one side, we have continuous data. Imagine you're weighing 4 of your friends. Their weights could be 48.9 kilos or maybe 50.3 kilos. It can basically be any decimal value within a specific range. It's fluid. On the other side, we have discrete data. Think about counting the number of pens in a friend's backpack. They might have 2 pens or 3 pens, but they absolutely do not have 2.5 pens. Discrete data relies on specific, isolated whole values. Grasping this simple difference is literally the bedrock of statistics.
All right, scholar phase complete. Welcome to Section 3, the Casio calculator weapon. It's time to shift gears to our swords, the modern calculators that are going to save us critical time during the heat of an exam.
Behold your ultimate exam weapon, the Casio Fx580VNX, along with its sibling, the Fx570 series. Now listen, this isn't just a machine for basic addition and subtraction. It is a highly advanced piece of hardware specifically designed to bypass complex multiple-choice traps. When you use it correctly, it literally functions as an extension of your own mathematical intuition.
But before you take this weapon into battle, you have to know how to maintain it. Imagine the absolute panic of being right in the middle of an exam. You type in a perfect equation and you get a math error because the calculator's memory is clogged up with random data from your homework the night before. No way. This step-by-step factory reset process needs to become pure muscle memory for you. Shift 9 3 equals. It clears the board, it resets your calculation modes, and it guarantees you're starting with a completely clean slate. Make sure you do this before every single major test.
Let's keep moving. Section 4, Fast Derivative Tricks. We're going to accelerate straight into high-level grade 12 calculus and see how to bypass manual math in a live combat scenario.
So if a test asks you to find the derivative of a nasty rational function, like x minus 4 over x plus 2 at x equals -1, manually, you'd be stuck using the quotient rule, tracking all your signs, and basically just praying you didn't drop a digit. Or you could just use the derivative button on your calculator. You literally type the expression exactly as it's given. Tell the machine x equals -1 and press equals. Boom! The instant result is 6. You just skipped 3 minutes of manual, error-prone math in about 15 seconds.
And that brings us to the overarching strategy we like to call the calc method. Look, multiple choice tests literally give you the answers. They're sitting right there in options A, B, C, and D. You can just enter an equation, press the calc button, and plug in the x and y coordinates provided in those options. If the equation balances out to exactly 0, you found your answer. You're basically working backward, letting the machine do all the heavy lifting of verification. It's a total game changer.
All right, Section 5, Super Fast Integrals. Let's see how we can completely bypass antiderivatives for a topic that looks incredibly intimidating on paper, but is actually remarkably vulnerable to our calculator hacks.
By definition, solving a definite integral requires finding the antiderivative, big F of x, and then calculating f of the upper bound minus f of the lower bound. We all know this manual method is notoriously tedious. One tiny little mistake in your antiderivative, and the whole problem collapses. But you know who doesn't make manual algebraic mistakes? Your Casio. So here is the ultimate integral hack. Let's say you're staring at an integral expression and you have 4 possible answers. All you do is type the integral exactly as given with its bounds, then hit the minus sign and type in option A. Press equals. If the calculator spits out a clean 0, you have just proven that the integral perfectly matches option A. If it's not 0, no sweat, just swap in option B. You are literally hacking your way to the correct option without finding a single antiderivative yourself. Now we've reached the climax of our explainer. Section 6, Ultimate Root Finding Techniques. This is where we deploy advanced combat techniques for those complex equations that try to hide their answers from you. And this leads us to a really critical, high-stakes question. Finding one answer is easy enough, but what if the equation is a polynomial or some tricky logarithmic function that has 2, 3, or even more roots? If you just use the standard solving features, the calculator is only going to give you the very first root it bumps into. So how do you force it to reveal the others? Well, first, we use the shift-solve function. You type in your equation, press shift-solve, and provide an initial guess. The calculator runs its algorithm and locks onto the first root. In this example, it finds that x equals -1. Awesome! We have our first piece of the puzzle. But the trick isn't over yet. Here is the crucial point. This next step is absolutely non-negotiable. You must save this first root into the calculator's memory. You use the store function, usually by hitting Shift, then STO, and assigning it to variable A. You've now captured that root and securely locked it away in the machine's memory banks. And now for the ultimate hacker move. You recall your original equation on the screen, but you wrap the whole thing in parentheses, and you divide it by x minus alpha A. Think about what this is actually doing mathematically. By dividing the equation by the root we already found, we're essentially factoring it out. We are hiding that first root from the calculator, blinding it to that answer, and forcing the algorithm to search further down the number line. When you hit Shift Solve again, boom, it spits out x equals 8. You've literally manipulated the machine into handing over the hidden second root. How cool is that? And hey, don't think this immense power is just limited to basic real numbers. By switching your Casio into Mode 2, the complex mode, you can evaluate absolute values and imaginary numbers with the exact same ease. You can use the calc strategies we just talked about to completely obliterate problems dealing with imaginary roots, and complex planes. The core logic remains exactly the same. So here we are at the end of our explainer. You've seen the foundational logic of how data works, and you've just witnessed the incredible time-bending keystrokes required to conquer everything from basic chapters to max-min calculus expressions on a multiple-choice exam. But listen, knowing the path and actually walking the path are two very different things. These hacks only work if your fingers know them by heart. So my question to you is, will you put in the reps? Will you practice these techniques enough before exam day to make this weapon an intuitive extension of your own mind? The tools are in your hands now. Go use them.